applause for Dan Russo. On deck, we have Winter. But before we bring our next performer on stage, a stupid joke. A pastor is driving home from the Sunday sermon with his son. And his son's 7, so he's asking all kinds of questions all the time. And the dad looks and says, like, okay, you're obviously thinking about something, buddy. What do you want to say? It's like, Dad, I noticed that just before you gave the sermon, you paused and kind of looked down for a while. Why did you do that? And I was like, oh, I'm really touched that you paid that much attention to me. That's really nice, sweetheart. I do that because I'm praying to God so that I can give a speech, I can give a sermon that is powerful and it moves people's hearts and draws them towards Christ. That's why I do that. And the kid goes, oh. And looks deep in thought again. The dad's like, okay, well, you're thinking something else, buddy. What is it? And the kid says, well, if you asked God for that, why didn't he answer? All right. Okay, and now put your hands together for our next performer, Ski! Sometimes when I'm on stage here, I do songs. Sometimes I do little speeches or stories. This is going to be one of those because I was talking to Sierra earlier, and this just seems to be apropos. The dog slunk away from me with his tail between its legs and the saddest look on its face. And I did nothing because I was in absolute shock. I could not believe what it had done. And the dog knew what it had done, and it was shocking enough to me that I didn't even notice that I was bleeding from my knees until I tried to walk back into the yard with the lawnmower. And we like to think that as people, we're rational. We have brains, we use them, we make decisions, and then we have some semblance of control over the inner workings of our own mind, of our own emotions. We're supposed to be adults, we have emotional control. We can make ourselves do things that maybe we don't want to do. But we're not completely rational. Our powers of self-control are deeply limited. And it doesn't matter how much I love dogs, and I love dogs, or cats, or any of these things. Like if it's pettable, I want to fucking pet it. That's how I'm going to die, I guarantee you. I'm the guy going up to the bison going, wow, you were so fluffy. But for the next 3 years, I could not reach out to pet a dog without something inside of me flinching. Something inside of me just contracting, trying to bring me back, trying to pull me back from this obvious danger. And that drove me absolutely horseshit crazy. I hated it. Because dogs can tell when you do something like that. They're very, very observant to humans. And when internally you twitch, they go, oh, maybe there's something wrong with this guy. Look, he doesn't really like dogs. Now, a lot of my speeches here have a weird kind of circular logic. So I'm going to jump around a little bit, and I'd just like to warn you before I start jumping subjects, like some guy with a remote control, swapping channels. These will all come together in the end. I had a friend who would play Battlefield with me. I don't know if you've ever played the game Battlefield, any of the series. It's a big shooter game, guns, tanks, helicopters, all of that. It was fucking amazing when I was young and had decent reflexes. Now I just get called naughty names and chased out of them. But at the time I really loved them. And I was okay. I was okay at it. But one of the things that would drive me nuts is I'd see someone way across the map, obviously looking the wrong direction, trying to sneak around a building, and suddenly they'd shoot me. Right in the head. Single shot, kill. And I'm like, how the fuck did he do that? And after a while, my buddy online was like, man, they just got a cheat kit. That's what you can go and you can buy them at like $35. You install them, and if you don't mind your account getting banned when they maybe eventually catch you, they're great. You can see through walls. You can turn on a little feature that will automatically turn and shoot anybody who gets within a certain range if it's clear. You can make your bullets go through walls. It's great. And from that day forward, I didn't like the game as much. And then the next month or two, I pretty much stopped playing it because it wasn't so much that everybody was cheating as much as it was I couldn't tell if everyone was cheating. Was it skill? Did I just suck that bad? Or did they just pay a lot of money? And once that occurred to me, I couldn't get rid of it. It was still in there. No matter what I did, I just couldn't enjoy the game anymore because it would always haunt me, that question of why. I'm going to jump channels again. I had a friend. She was with a guy for many, many years. Effectively married, even though they weren't actually married. And the distance between them grew. And she was starting to despair. We talk about it every now and then, about how it didn't seem like they were anything other than roommates and how everything, kind of the spark had gone down. And then one day, he's like, hey, let's go out to this nice restaurant. She's like, oh, great, yeah, absolutely. Yes, let's do this. A date night, that's fabulous. They went out there, but he wasn't any more emotionally available than he was before. And at some point in the dinner, he looked at her and he goes, I think we should break up. You've gotten fat, and I don't find it attractive. And he left. And she called me, and she was all tore up. But that's not what I want to point in this story. The point is the weeks and the months and the years afterwards, where we'd be talking, and she'd be telling me about a date she was on. And she'd say things like, I went out on this date, and it was great, and we were doing marvelous. It was such a good night. And he's like, hey, would you like some dessert? I said, yeah, I'll have the chocolate cake. And he paused for just a second. But she noticed it now. Maybe other guys had paused when they said that. Maybe it was like, oh, well, I was going to get the chocolate cake. It doesn't matter what was in the mind, but that pause now had meaning. It now had significance. And just like the dog, and just like the cheat codes, something inside twitched, pulled all the muscles in, made her afraid, made her doubt herself, made everything cast in a brand new light and not a good one. So I've kind of walked in a big circle here. Let's bring this together here. I've heard way too many fucking times somebody say, oh, don't play the race card, man. Don't play the race card. Don't pull that bullshit on me. All it takes is one time for somebody you thought was a friend to throw an N-word out or to say a caricature, a stereotype, in a way that is very obviously not laughing along with, but laughing at, mocking at. All it takes is one of those. And I have never met a person of color who hasn't had at least one of those. How? How could you go through life not twitching instinctively every time there's even a chance of that? How hard would it be for you? How difficult? Because in the end, no matter how much you love dogs, no matter how much you love chocolate cake, no matter how much you love Battlefield 6, no matter how much you love other people, you never forget the dog that bit you.